and welcome to the Gantry G podcast. On the 11th of June this year, two significant events happened in the sporting world, both internationally and locally. Internationally, we all witnessed the long-awaited expanded format of the World Cup kickoff in Mexico. And then back home is when the national budget was formally read, an 83.2 trillion budget, where the sports sector got about 406 billion. Today, we dive deep into, of course, the World Cup that has been played for about a week now. And to discuss that with me is a long friend, sports enthusiast, PR guru, and of late, an award-winning CAF stadium announcer, Mr. Magero, the mouthpiece of KCCA Football Club. Magero, welcome to the Gantry UG. It's a pleasure having you.
Like you said, it's a pleasure being here at the Gantry, making my debut, and I'm very pleased to definitely be here. I know how big and how much you really wanted to do something like this. I remember I'm one of the first people that reached out when the first, I think, episode aired, and I'm like, this is really nice, and I know how much you've really been into this. So I'm glad to be among the first people that you've been able to host.
Actually, this is episode 2, and I was really dying to have you. I was supposed to have you last week, but of course, even your busy schedule, sir.
Yeah.
We couldn't have you. No. As we kickstart this episode, as I've said, we've been having the World Cup going on. Heading into this new format, everyone was skeptical, saying an expanded 48-team format. Everyone thought that maybe an inclusion of very many new teams like Curaçao, Cape Verde, Uzbekistan, teams like Haiti. People thought that maybe this would be, we were going to witness games that are one-sided. But boy, oh boy, have we had shockers and surprises at this World Cup. For starters, what do you think so far with what you have seen? Has this format lived up to the hype and the building, as if I had put it forward for the World Cup?
I think generally so far so good. We are just getting into match day 2, what we call match day 2, or the second games of the groups. But to be honest, for my feel, it's so far so good for FIFA. Many came out. I remember I watched an interview or a clip that General Gattuso had come out and said that the expanded format, I mean, why does Africa have 10 slots or even 9 slots at a time? Because I remember the 10th we had to work, DRC had to work for it. And those are too many slots for Africa. And I felt that was a little bit harsh to the African footballers, not only those that are playing football for their local teams here in Africa, but even those that play or ply their trade in different teams all over Europe and other parts of the world, because they contribute so much to these teams. So for me, I feel that's a little bit disrespect to them. But the 48 format or the 48 team format for the World Cup, I think it's a platform for different countries to play at the World Cup. To be honest, the epitome of football is playing at the World Cup.
True.
The goal of every footballer, whatever sport you play at, be it badminton, cricket, you want to play at the World Cup because that's the global stage, or the epitome of your sport. So for you to be denied that chance just simply because someone feels an extra slot or 2 for a certain continent is not really worth it. I feel that was really harsh from Gattuso. All respect to him as a legend, but the format is so far so good. I've been able to watch games and I'm like, wow. Cape Verde, first of all, Cape Verde versus Spain. Look at a team like talked about the Haiti. Some of these teams have actually even lost games, but the kind of display they put up. I looked at the game that had France Senegal. Senegal could have lost that game, but the kind of display Senegal had against France, just showing them that we can go pound for pound. So these are players that almost 3/4 of that team play in the top best teams all over, Europe. So, like I said, the expanded format and some of these teams, even some of us being able to see some of these players play for their teams. Ecuador, I saw the PSG centre back, Pacho, and then he copy of us, and I'm like, wow. Most of the times I look at these guys in their countries, and I'm thinking they could be featuring for top nations out there. But look at how they're getting fielded in this country. In their nation. So I feel the format is good.
I mean, you could also look at a player like Ted Chong, who has played at United, showing up for a country like Curacao.
Yeah. So I feel the format is good so far, and it gives them a platform to different countries, also to play at the global stage. And who knows, we might even see one or two of those countries everybody thought would get out, maybe in the groups, making it to the knockout rounds.
Yeah, of course, coming into this what would call match day one. For those who may not understand football, maybe when they hear say match day one, they'll be like, but we've already heard about what? A week of football games. Match day one is basically the first game.
So if there are 48 teams, we've already had 24 teams.
Yeah, already 24
matches.
24 games.
Yeah, from the first.
And boy, oh boy, the goals have been banged in so far, because already 75 goals have been scored across match day. And maybe you could say match day two with the games that were played earlier on today. But again, sticking to match day one, we saw a couple of, some wins here and there, narrow wins. Others were big wins, like for Germany against Croatia, but also saw an avalanche of draws. Does this mean that teams were maybe so cautious coming into the World Cup, or maybe it was a matter of they didn't know what to expect? Because if you look at a game like Spain against Cape Verde, I was one of those people who thought that Spain was literally going to walk through Cape Verde, but they literally hit the wall, as in, for lack of a better word. So do you think teams have been so cautious maybe in the first round of games, and what does this bill us for when it comes to the maybe match day two?
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's a little bit of being cautious, but I'll put it to the gap getting reduced. Before a team like Portugal playing DRC, you would expect that to get a little bit wild. DRC has not been at the World Cup, I think, for 50 years or something.
Yeah, about 50 years.
Yes, and now that they are back, a team like that, you would expect it to lose that game by a very huge margin. They concede first against Portugal and get on to get the leveler just before the halftime, and then maintain that game at 1-1 towards the end, with even a good couple of chances in that game. This shows you that the gap has reduced. Look at that DRC team. Only one player plays their football in Africa, and that player that didn't even play that game, that is Fiston Mayele, the guy that was at Yanga and then later on went to I forget the team, but somewhere in Egypt, Pyramids. They actually won the Champions League the season before Sundowns won it, and I'm told now his contract is done and he could find himself in Libya or something. The rest of the players are playing in France, in England, and in top teams, and Belgium. So the gap has reduced. These are players that literally face each other week in, week out. France, Senegal. You look at the Senegal team that had Mane, that had Mendy, that had Koulibaly, and all these other guys. They literally face these guys on a daily, or they play players at that level who are at the level of the French players on a daily or weekly. So I feel the gap has reduced. That's one. Two, and also it's the same methodologies. You realize that things have gotten a little bit better. Back then, Africa didn't have, let me say, the best of the coaches. Or if they had them, people were a little bit on maybe the old tactics. Lately, we have coaches from Africa going to Europe to get their badges, and some of them are actually former players who played football somewhere in Europe or in the top leagues and got their badges as they were playing. So they come back home and coach his team. So they come with the latest trends. They get back with things that are, for a better word, a really cool. So that and that's what they're trying to implement with these players. And also they're not coaching players where they have got to start from scratch, like a local based player or something. They are coaching players that are playing football at the very top level. So the gap has reduced. You have coaches that are learned and have been to maybe the best schools for in terms of coaching and getting their badges. And also the players being able to shift and playing in the best leagues out there. That means they're no longer faced by things like numbers. Oh my goodness, the stadium is full and packed, and that is already going to have butterflies in your stomach. No?
They no longer have the stage fright.
Yeah.
But Moses, do you think? Of course, we are so far as in so good for Africa. We are happy with what we are seeing at that world stage. But do you think the football that these teams are exhibiting is reflective of what's happening back home, generally in Africa?
Not really. Not really. I'll give an example for South Africa. They have got the best league here locally, but they have not been able to give us that at the global stage. Because if you look at the South African team, the majority of the players are local-based players. They have about, I think, 2 or 3 players. That should be the centre-back that was sent off the other day, Sitole. The guy that played, Ime Okon, who played as a centre-back, yes, against, that was Czechia, and the striker Lyle Foster from Burnley. The majority of that team, or the core of that team, are players in Orlando Pirates and
Sundowns. Yeah.
So here locally, when we get to play the CAF Champions League, they're the best because, I mean, fantastic team, well coached and very good players. I've gotten some foreign players coming in from Europe and South America playing there. But then once it gets to the World Cup, it's going to be a little bit different because the majority or the core of the South African team are local players. And it's not that local players can't compete at that level, but get me right, at that level it's something a little bit different. You're going to play a player that has played close to 80 games, about, let me say, 30 games in the league, about maybe 10 in the Carabao, maybe 10 somewhere in pre-season before the league started, maybe about 7 in the Champions League or 10. So that kind of player has got a lot of game time in those leagues. He's been playing at the very top level. So when he gets to meet a player that has been playing, maybe say at the South African national team, you're not going to be a little bit like them because they're better than you in terms of quality, in terms of and game understanding and all this kind of things. So that's why we have seen some of these teams struggle at that level. Yet, believe you me, that South African team, when they come back here,
yeah, we saw them here during the CHAN.
You're going to see them compete.
What they did to our darling Uganda Cranes.
Yeah.
But then again, when you look at teams like Egypt, yes, you have Mamouche in there, you have Mohamed Salah, but you could see the kind of display they put up against Belgium. And at least, if I may be wrong, but maybe close to 50% of those players also play in their local base league.
Yeah.
So I think that the leagues vis-a-vis the teams that are representing these leagues. Because now, if you look at a team like the DRC, if you look at their local league, it does not reflect what the DRC is. And I think this is where Uganda is trying to pick a lead for this whole buzz of naturalizing players. But also, if we came down to naturalizing players as Uganda, is it just a matter of getting people who are playing in foreign leagues, or we also have to get the best of the best at? Because I mean, I'm yet to see we have a one Divine Mukasa now playing in Man City. Yeah. Do you think a player like that, who has actually played in the undergrad football, the English national teams, will eventually decide whether to come back and play for us or play for England?
I'll start with the naturalization. I think we need to get it right. It's not just about getting any Ugandan who's playing football out there and get them in. No. I think we need to get the best of those players and then get them in. I'll give an example.
What does it take to naturalize a player? Maybe if we could start from...
I mean, one, you've got to have an attachment to the country. At least your parent has got to have been a Ugandan. You could have been born here and then you later on moved. Let me just give an example to England. You could have your parents that they moved maybe to England before they gave birth to you, and but then one of your parents maybe was a Ugandan. Then you have a scenario whereby a player's parents, for example, they are completely Ghanaians, but then they give birth to the player from, they had come for work, and then they give birth to the player, just like you've seen what we've heard about Baba. I think that's Baba Rahman. With Baba, the national team guy.
The guy from, is it Ghana?
Romania, yes. Yeah, I'm told the parents gave birth to a guy from here, I think in Ginger, Caparadosi. Both his parents are not Ugandans, but
I think one is Congolese and the other is Italian.
Yes. But they were here for work, I think in Entebbe or something. And they gave birth to the guy from, I think here, then they later on moved. So that is, there's an attachment somewhere. Could be by birth, could be naturally you're Ugandan, or one of the parents is Ugandan. So that already, at least you have an attachment to Uganda, you can get the citizenship. But for us to naturalize players, I think we need to get the best players. We need to find players that can add some quality to this Ugandan team. Already the players we have are good, but I feel there are players out there that could be slightly a little bit better. Look at the players we've already been able to get in. Look at a guy like Caparadosi. Fantastic centre back.
What's that gentleman? When he pairs with in the centre back, the guy playing in is it Vietnam? What's his name? I forget the name.
Oh, the centre back.
Yes.
Yes. I forget the name, but he played, I think, for England growing up. I'll give an example. Look at a team like Senegal. The guy that scored for Senegal that day, like young guy, 20 years of age.
Yeah.
I think he's a teenager. Yes, Ibrahim Diaye played for France in the age grade tournament for under 15, and I think up to about under 19, and then later on switched to Senegal because he's Senegalese. I think his mother is Moroccan, and then the father is Senegalese.
We also saw Ayari, who scored, I think, against Tunisia, playing for Sweden.
Yeah, so for us to naturalize players, we need to get the best. Let's get the best players. First of all, let's find out which Ugandan players are out there. That's one. When you find out, let me say it's a pool of 50, how many of those can we get back? And then from that group, because not all of the 50 are going to want to get back. You've already seen you've already read something about Divine Mokasa saying he's not interested at the moment. We all don't know. Right now, he's already played for England at the age grade tournaments, but is he sure that he will maybe make it to the Three Lions senior team?
And that's where I have the problem, because you could talk about a guy like Okechukwu Ikpeazu. I think this man was first called in by McKinstry, and over the years, he kept on hoping that maybe we could play for was it Scotland or England or maybe Nigeria.
Obita, I think the name you're looking for earlier
was Obita, yes. But then later on, when they realized that now they cannot play for these teams, that's when they decided to come and play for us. Yet they ended in the name of their career.
Yeah. And it's not only actually Uche. There's another guy recently, I think Bokon. They summoned him for these recent friendlies that didn't happen because of the health issues and all that. Bokon, at the time, he was playing somewhere in Germany. There's another guy that played at the AFCON. He was playing in Werder Bremen. At the time when they summoned him, forget the name, but is it Melvin Lorenzo?
Lorenzo.
He had been summoned by one of those I think Robertson or something, former coaches for the Cranes. And I think at the time he turned it down or something happened. But then they get back here and they're 30, 31 because probably at the time they can't play for their countries that they thought they would play for. And it's a little bit late. So I think we need to get them first. We need to get them young. We need to get them, and not only for the Uganda Cranes, but even for these age grade teams, the under 17. Look, we're going to be playing World Cup second year on the bounce. So I mean, how about to get a few good teenagers out there to play for that under 17 team, maybe 2 or 3. Then when it gets to the under 20, put in some 2 or 3, so that they grow with that team, than just showing up at 26 and you want to play for the Uganda Cranes. So we need to get it right, and I'm sure there are very good Ugandans out there.
We shall get back to that whole issue of naturalization. Let's first draw attention back to the World Cup. We have seen the hosts in USA, Mexico, and Canada turning up strong in their first 2 games. Okay, I would say the first 2 games for Canada. They say with a draw, and we saw how they alienated Haiti with the 6-0 drubbing earlier on this morning. Of course, USA coming up with a very strong statement against Paraguay. And then we also saw what Mexico did to South Africa, and them being the first country now to qualify for the round of 32. How far do you think these host nations will get to the World Cup?
All the 3 host nations will get to the round of 32. Why? They have got the backing. I've seen it firsthand how big that the funds, the 60,000, the 80,000 funds in the stadium can really push a team. I'll just push a little bit back to August last year, 2025, when we had the CHAN. And I saw it firsthand. I was a little bit close to proceeding because of the role I was serving during CHAN. And I would see how the players would really get pushed because of that crowd that we had. Forget the 3-0 against Algeria. And I know that was a little bit of butterflies for most of them. But
stage fright at the biggest stage for most of the players.
Absolutely. Most of them had never played in a stadium that has even 7,000 fans. When we say it's a sellout here, and normally that's KCC Vipers or Villa KCC,
it's about 2,000,
about 4,000, 5,000, and everyone is saying that was a sellout. What we call sellout is 70, 60,000 plus, and that is what we are seeing at the World Cup. So when I saw a 40,000 stadium packed at Nambole, and some of our players got the experience to play in that, I saw how much that crowd can really push you, and I'm seeing that in the World Cup. Canada on another day. Those are games they would be losing if they were not having that crowd back in the Mexico and the USA. These are not, I mean, maybe Mexico, but these are not your kind of footballing nations. Just like if I'm trying to put it that way, we all know the big boys.
They're not the traditional big boys.
Yeah. But because they're home, they're going to be able to probably put in a goal. There's also that home advantage. Sometimes you get the calls that that will go your side simply because you're at home. And definitely that's able to push you, because just 2 wins, or maybe a win and a draw, you're in the round of 32. We may not be able to. I don't know how much this crowd is going to push them past the round of 32, because you could get dropped to Spain.
I was going to come to that, because with this new format, we're here to see, or we shall actually see, even the traditional big hitters in like Brazil and maybe Spain, even that they drew their first games.
Yeah.
And wait to see where they will end up. Don't be surprised if you find Brazil playing Germany
at the round of 32. Yeah.
So, of course, apart from those two upsets of Spain and Brazil, I mean, as in for those who didn't watch the games, Brazil drew with Morocco and then Spain drew with Cape Verde. There are those other traditional giants that have hit the ground running in Germany. We saw what they did to Curacao with the 7-1 drubbing. We saw what Messi with and Argentina did to Algeria, England against Croatia. Should we say that the real World Cup will start at the round of 32, or maybe now that teams have checked themselves out, match day 2 is yet to give us the best of the World Cup?
I feel the real World Cup started. To be honest, the real World Cup started. But what I say is maybe what they call the business end. That is when you get to the round of 32, because you have won one game, one chance.
That is it.
There's no way that game goes to extra time and it's pushed to next day, unless it rains, I don't know, cats and dogs, and then they say it's unplayable. But right now, I mean, even with South Africa, just speaking, only 1 point in 2 games have got a chance.
Yeah, true.
If they win probably against South Korea, or if they draw, and they're among the best 8 sides out of the other 12 groups.
It's possible. I mean, we saw it at the AFCON, where TZ were able to qualify for the round of 16 with only 2 points in the group.
There was also another time, I think, when Ivory Coast hosted,
yes,
and they went through by, I think, 2 points, and they went on to win it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think what the round of 30 will be the business end of the World Cup.
We already we touched a bit on the African nations that have produced some of the most eye-catching performances. I mean, we saw what Morocco did to Brazil. They did not just draw, they actually pushed Brazil to the wall. But of course, the individual brilliance of Vini Jr. was able to draw, as in Brazil, back into the tie. Then, of course, we see Ivory Coast going ahead to defeat Ecuador, Ghana also securing a late win against Panama, and then South Africa getting themselves a lifeline against Czechia yesterday, and then we also what Cape Verde did against Spain. How would you rate the African teams so far in this tournament?
I would say fair enough so far. We've seen some draw, we've seen some draw points, we've seen some win. I think for me, the team so far that has impressed me from Africa so far has been Ivory Coast, not because of the win they picked, but in the manner in which they happen to have done it, and that was against Ecuador. Now, that Ecuador team is very good, and I was reading at the time when everybody kept on asking that how does Pacho do it season in, season out, and they even pick red. And then I read about the Ecuador, I mean, like the academies and all that. They've got a very good age grade structure that has produced players like Hinkapi and I think there's Caicedo in there, and then that Pachuca and many other guys.
You could even go as way back as the Antonio Valencias of back in the day.
And what they talked about is they focus so much on the age grade, because they know it's going to get itself done if the foundation is worked on or paid focus. You pay some focus to the foundation. So, but in the manner in which Ivory Coast really did it against against Ecuador. They managed the game well. They had very good moments in that game. A guy like Diamande, that guy that is that Liverpool is interested in, had a very fantastic game. And then the super subs they got in, a guy like Ahmad getting in, and then that one chance, one goal, and the game is sealed. They just at the death. For me, they have impressed very well. But then definitely other teams, we look at Ghana doing it against Panama. A win in the group stage is good enough to. You only need probably a point to make it to the round of 32. If Ghana can, try to, because they have a Jordan in there. Of course. England may be a little bit tough for them, but also it's a World Cup, anything can happen.
I'm sure if Ghana is able to secure at least a point against Jordan, they will be in the round of 32. Yeah, so in that same vein, we have seen a couple of new emerging nations at the World Cup. Again, I mentioned Cape Verde again, Uzbekistan, and the DRC after a couple of years in 50 years. Generally, what do you have to say about these nations at the World Cup? And I know in the beginning you said the one January Gattuso was very skeptical and angry. I think the anger came from Italy not qualifying for the World Cup in the first place. But boy, oh boy, have these teams given us a spectacle so far.
The new teams?
Yes, the new teams.
That are
no, the new teams. The new teams. Haiti, in general, Curacao, Cape Verde, Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
You could also term DRC as a newcomer, given that they've been away from the bigger showcase.
The longevity. The longevity. I feel they've really given us a good show. I'll start with DRC. The 50 years. They've been there, but 50 years is huge. That's half a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, half a century.
Half a century.
For a team like DRC getting back, I mean, with a coach that we all know very well and giving us the kind of display they've given us, the kind of display they've given us against Portugal. For me, that was really fantastic. I mean, for them, the kind of football they have, the profile of the players they do have, I mean, and all that. But I'll look at a few countries. Haiti, may not be so convincing, but for me, the fact that they are the World Cup, that's good enough. They may not even get to the round of 32, but this experience is you cannot buy it. It's one ticket. You're either in or you're either out. Cape Verde was in the same group with Cameroon. I mean, in the qualifiers, Cameroon has the best of the players you could ever think about on the continent. And these guys are not in the World Cup because Cape Verde led that group and they're in the World Cup. So for me, I'm already happy. The fact that these countries, were able to qualify, two, they've been able to compete. Countries like Cape Verde, for me, I'm very happy. DRC after all those 50 years. Haiti and the Uzbekistan and all that, because definitely there was an expansion of the format and of the teams. We expected some of the teams that have not usually been coming to get in. But then if there was an expansion and then the traditional sides like Italy, that even won it in 2006 are not in, then that means you're not good enough.
Yeah. Moses, most times we focus, because of what we're used to before, the World Cup of 32 teams, it was always automatic that the top two head into the round of 16. But now there is a new plot twist in having the best 8 place teams. Do you think there's also going to be what I would term as an arms race when it comes to that category? Because we're likely to see the teams that we regard as the perennial big hitters at this stage having to sneak their way through that window of the 8 teams that have to be amongst that best teams.
Yeah, true.
Do you think also, as we head into match day 2 and eventually match day 3, do you think that those next 2 games for each team in the group are going to create some sort of plot twist to see which teams eventually make it to the round of 32?
True. Let me just give you an example of 2 teams. If Spain go on and draw their next game or lose, let me say draw. That means they will have 2 points going into the final game. Anything can happen in the final game. You could lose a player to a red card. You've seen how we saw 3 red cards in the first game. Yeah. And yet the previous tournament, I think the entire tournament had 4.
Only 4 red cards. Yes.
So if in only just one game we had 3, anything would happen. You could have a player. You could lose a player probably to maybe a red card, and then the entire game plan changes. So, and just look at Portugal. They drew against DRC. What happens if they lose or draw their next game? That means they have got to sneak in as either the third best teams, because all it takes is 2 other teams getting 2 wins in that group. And you even at 2 points on the final day, even a win is not enough for you.
Actually, I think it's also going to come down to the goal difference.
Yeah. At one moment, goal difference, cautions, maybe, because I'm sure after goal difference, cautions, they will look at all that. So you could tie in terms of goal difference, and then your team had 7 yellow cards in groups, and the other team had 6. So that all this gets, to account, and it does matter. But just to answer you, it's going to be tough for some teams. All I'm saying is, especially teams that have not picked a win already, you just draw another game or lose a point. Lose points, all the entire 3 points in the second group games, and then you're getting into the do or die.
So do you think the draw between Brazil and Morocco has set up Haiti? Because they play Haiti earlier on tomorrow morning, I think, at around 1 or 2. Do you think we might see another 7-1 of sorts?
To be honest,
Brazil against Haiti.
the games that I'm really looking out for, and I've already, if I'm to predict, it's going to be a goals gallo. Jordan, England. That's the game. Guys like Hurricane are going to be like, I need to chase the boat on such a game. Brazil, Haiti. They'll be like a house on fire. Guys like Vinicius, I just have it that this is a game. There's another team in the French group. I think it should be Qatar or something. I don't know. But
The French group? No, yes. I don't think it's Qatar.
There's a team, but I think, I don't know.
Is it
Jamaica? Jordan is with England. There's a team in the group that has France. And when you look at them, you're like, these are the teams. All is France, the time when they play that team, which I've forgotten, and then Haiti against Brazil, and Jordan against England. It will be goals galore. And just like you saw with Germany and Curacao.
True. Yeah. At the beginning of this World Cup, very many folks out there ask themselves, is it the World Cup for the old guard, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, the likes of the man at Croatia, Luka Modric, or is it going to be a World Cup of the young talents on show like Lamine Yamal, the Nico Williams, you have people like Erling Haaland, or are we going to have some new emerging talents that were not known to the world? Very many of us were quick to write off the old guard like the Ronaldos and the Messis, but we also what people like Messi did. We saw what Hurricane did for England. Now, that being said, this is a World Cup that is being played around the international transfer window. Do you think that this should be the space where players should make a mark for themselves, maybe to determine where they'll be playing, in which league and in which country next season? Because if you look at a player like Marcus Rashford, whose loan spell has come to an end at Barcelona, do you think this is the time for him to put his arm and make his stand and count himself amongst the players who should be playing at the biggest like clubs in Europe next year or next season? Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the World Cup being for the big boys, definitely the big boys will always be the big boys. Just look at the games already had. Mbappe showing you how it's done against Senegal. Messi coming up to show you that even at 39 years, he's still got it, scoring a hat-trick in there. And all these other guys that have been able to score. But then you look at a guy like Rashford off the bench with a goal. He had even a chance to score 2 goals in that one. He got a chance in, I think, the 89th minute when Saka gave him that pass. But then the players that have not yet showed us, but just only after one game, I think it would be harsh for Cristiano Ronaldo. We all know what he really can do. But I feel it's also World Cup will be able to. There's always that one player or two that show up every World Cup and take up the whole tournament by storm. We've seen it with the Rodriguez's before.
Yeah.
And then the different editions have always had that one player.
Rodriguez is 2010 World Cup and him may call up at Madrid.
And then there's that guy, and that guy is really fantastic. Ian Diamonde from
the Ivorian.
Fantastic guy. So rare do you see a player that keeps taking on players. He's so direct that he will get the ball and run at you. Not once, not twice, but 10 times in like 15 minutes every time he gets the ball. And I feel, and at 19 years, because he's 19, very many clubs are interested in him. I saw Madrid the other day, so Liverpool. So for me, I feel this will be that there will always be 1 to 3 players that will show up in this kind of World Cup. I've seen Haaland scoring 2 goals.
Yeah, you could, and also the kind of performance the young man in Somerville, the kind of performance he put up for the Netherlands. You can already see that there's discussion, I think, around the big boys from England, like Manchester United, I think, having a look into maybe having him in their left flank next season. Yeah. But then again, there are moves we saw happen even before the World Cup started, like Gordon going to Barcelona, and then also having Ederson going to United. But then there have been jokes on the where they're saying that Tuchel set up Gordon to show that Rashford was a better player than him by starting him, and he failed to deliver. Then Rashford comes on and then bangs in the goal.
Then he plays just after he had signed. But I feel it's a little bit early to call. Croatia is a very good team. And I think this is Gordon's first World Cup. I didn't see him so much in the age grade England team. I don't even if he played very many games. If he did. But kudos to him to even start in that team. And could even have been a strategy from Tuchel. Start these guys, let them go out there, give it their all. The game is at 2-2, and then I bring on these guys. When they came in, like I said, actually they came in out at 3-2. but I looked at the substitutes being made. That this guy is introducing Saka, that is Rogers, and then Rashford. For that kind of front three that started, I think Madueke and then Gordon and
Harry Kane.
And then I'm saying, I mean, look at, but my worries were with the defense. They leaking goals. They've got the attack.
One would argue that I think England has the best attacking at the World Cup. So I think it's going to be a matter of you score and they score more.
But there'll be those games, the teams that had to break down also. They're going to be teams that you might score one and they score three against you. So you also have the abilities to break down their defense. So, but then talking about stars, well, they came on as substitutes, but Williams and that's Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. I felt, Lamine had flashes of brilliance when he came on, but I'm not so sure if they are 100% fit, especially after the injuries they've both had throughout the season. But if they are to get their mojo and rhythm back, then trust me, that Spanish team can also go very far.
Definitely. Yeah. I want us to bring this World Cup talk at a halt here. Then we first bring it back home. But again, at that same wavelength of the transfers, you being one of the most active people with one of, not arguably, but one of the biggest clubs here in Uganda in KCCA, what messages are you hearing around the transfer grapevine here in Uganda? It would be unfair, Magero, to have you here and I don't ask you as in things about KCCA, because we have heard that people like Serun Georgie could be heading somewhere, the Gavins, so I mean,
I am between a rock and a hard place because of I don't know, but just to talk about the transfers first of all start on the 1st of July to be exact, and then they go on until about 2-3 weeks into the season. The season starts
I think until the 31st of September, yeah, sometime in September,
because the season starts 28th of August. Then earlier on we shall have had this FIFA Super 8, which starts on the 1st of August. Because definitely for KCCA Football Club, the players return on 1st July for pre-season, so they have pre-season for a month. But then we are counting also that the Super 8 is part of our pre-season, because normally we counted that pre-season is 6 weeks. But then the first 4 weeks will be uninterrupted 1st to 30th July, and then first we start the Super 8, but then those 2-3 weeks for the Super 8, you're using it to get that that game time. So by the 28th of August, when the season kicks on, you've got the rhythm to try to push. It's the same year that has some AFCON qualifiers. We might already have qualified because we are hosts, but we'll still participate. So it's going to be a very busy calendar for our players. So like I said, the transfer start on 1st July. I'll term whatever you're saying right now as silly season. It's so much silly season, and I call it silly season because that's what our friends somewhere in Europe call it. But they are definitely, the club is actually working. We are making some moves undercover because, like I said, it's not yet that time to.
Other things we're hearing about the likes of Serun Georgie and is it Brain Jara or Ijara?
Serun Georgie is fun, still contracted as a player. I should tell you, he has got about 2 months to complete that contract. The club has been in talks and is still in talks with the player. Our interest is to always keep our best players. The other player is Brain Jara, fantastic player from the academy. He's got an engine like Rolls Royce, that's what we normally call him. He's a crazy guy. He runs every now and then, but I mean, he's always had interest from the time he played at the World Cup. Like I said, you see now these are tournaments that you always want your players to play. Jara at 16 years was playing the Under-17 World Cup last year in Qatar. He has got very many offers. I don't know how many agents and clubs out there in Europe have reached out to the club. So in the meantime, the club is yet to make that decision. The boy is around. Actually, last weekend he played in the FIFA Juniors League. He says that not very many people watch the FIFA Juniors League. He's been able to, garner all that interest from different clubs. The club is yet to make a decision on him. But like I said, our best interests are in making sure our players go to the best teams out there that will help them develop and grow. Those that we manage to sell. Our best interest is to keep our best players. But then, like I said, the game in Uganda has not grown to that level whereby a club is going to be able to stop a move. Let me just give you an example. Worth, let me say, $200,000. how much do you pay the players here? Let me say a good team could play about maybe 2, 3, 4 million if you're good enough.
I think at most what we have had in the grapevine is about even 5 million.
If you, like I said, if you're good enough, depends. Different contracts are signed by different players. But then a team is going to come up, let me say somewhere in the second tier, Turkey, and say, tells the agent of the player, I'm going to give your player, let me say, $10,000 a month, sign-on fees at 200,000. So that means maybe if they steal a contract, the money goes to the club. If as you are negotiating, you say the certain percentage will go to the player, then that percentage will go to the player. How do you stop that?
No,
it's going to be hard because you also need to know that you could, if you don't make the move or make the call at that time, this player could have maybe 6 months or 1 year to the end of his contract. So you risk losing him for free at the end of the season, or having him move maybe 1 year before, and then probably sign or put in the contract that on the agreement that the club will keep maybe getting a certain percentage for all the moves that he keeps making, or even when that club sells him somewhere. So that you just keep earning. And then also, you as a club have got to make sure you strengthen the conveyor belt, which is the academy. Make sure the conveyor belt keeps bringing. Don't stop at Brain Jara, but have others, the young gut bills, the gentleman that saved the penalty that took us to the under-17 again this year, Ashraf Luchamuzi, for the under-17, the ones that have been in Morocco. Keep having those that even when they make it to the senior team and maybe later on they make moves or they get moves, because out there they want young players. 1, 2 players that are playing at those levels, the World Cup, the under-17 World Cup.
The exposure.
It's going to be hard for a team in Europe to pick you at 30. It's hard. I mean, what qualities do you have that are better than a certain 20-year-old? Because if they pick, let me say, Branger at 16, by 20, they have given him everything they need in whatever club is at. He plays about 2 other years at 22. Another better team picks him all, and then you hear he's left maybe wherever he has gone, and then goes to another better team. But at 30, you're getting in there, and then there's something you miss probably in your development. You get the ball in the final third, and you want to make 7 touches because and they know you should make 1 or 2 touches. So it's going to be a little bit different. So strengthen the conveyor belt, have a lot of players coming in from the junior team, and also make the right buys if you're going out there and then also keep the core group of the team. Because yes, you want to make business, rack in some money, but then make sure you keep the core of the team. Otherwise, you risk losing 10 every season and bringing 10 new ones. By the time they get the mojo, then you're going to be selling them or you're losing them after their contracts have run out. So yeah, I think that answers it. The players that you're asking about still have binding contracts about 1-2 months. So let's see. We hope for the best.
So and what is the situation that is surrounding your technical department? And you know where I'm headed to, the coaching situation. There are noises that I could be right or wrong, but again, as you call it, it's a silly season. There are things that we are hearing that maybe moving forward for the next season, you're going to scrap the whole co-coaching thing. So is it Magera or is it Brian who's going to stay? I mean, Brian made very strong statements last season, and he came out, I think, when he was hosted on one of the shows at NBS, I think it was NBS Sport This Morning, where he assured us that KCCA was going to bag something. So I don't know what the situation is like in Lugogo after what kind of season you guys had last season. What's the situation?
I'll start with co-coaching. There was like 7 questions in one, but I'll start with the co-coaching situation. One, Coach Brian and Coach Jackson signed contracts, definitely signed individual contracts. But then the club gave them those titles or appointed them as co-head coaches. That was at the beginning of last season. And this was supposed to go on for 2 years because the contracts were 2 years. But then if there's going to be any call that, like you say, you've heard, which I've not heard, I don't know how come you have heard of something that I've not heard about. But if there are going to be any calls by the club, normally that's made at board level and top management level. Then both coaches are definitely called and then informed about if in case we're going to have any changes. But if that's the only time they'll be called. But if there are not going to be any changes, then they expect them to work again. We hoped to get some silverware at the end of the season. Unfortunately, we made it a little bit difficult for ourselves.
Where do you think KCL lost it last season?
Where do I think we lost it? We dropped points that I felt we should never have dropped. not only at the end of the season, but from the start. Look, we drew against Lugazi at home. All respect to the team, but these are teams you should be winning against if you want to win the title at your home. We dropped points our way to, I think, Calvary, and then lost that game in the last minute against Vipers. If you pick maximum points in those games, given the point difference at the end of the season, we're champions. If we're going away, beat Calvary, come back home, win against Vipers at home, and then I think also dropped. Then I think we had a draw with URA somewhere. So we made it a little bit difficult for ourselves. That was in the league, and I think also in the Uganda Cup. Because we had the quarterfinal, you're leading the game 2-0 with about, I think, 15 minutes to go.
About 20 minutes actually to go.
15, because I think they equalized the 75th, and then they score the first goal at 75th. The other goal is, I think, 85th. Space of 10 minutes. But, I mean, those are things you look back as you do review the season and you say, how did this happen? Leading a game 2-0 and then going to lose it to go to the extra time and don't even win. So, like I said, those are things I say, we made it difficult for ourselves. Nowadays, if you win the game against her, you get to the semi-finals. It's a 2-leg. Who knows? You could win it at home and probably also win at home. So, in terms of the aggregate, you go to the final, and you all know the final is the final. With the league, we dropped points that I felt if we had won, or if we had maybe collected full 3 points in some of these games, then we would have a chance. But the review keeps going on. As I speak right now, we're doing the reviews, different departments, and the plan is to try to get it right. I know it's been a long time coming from about 2019, it's about 7 seasons now since we last won some silverware, but we've got to keep trying every season.
You have a new man at the helm in the patron for the club, Mr. Valimwezo. Have you had a chance to meet him, and if you have, what does he think of the club? And what's his vision, or what plans does he have as a patron?
The new Lord Mayor has got very big plans, not only for the club, but for the city. And we, first of all, I congratulate him. We congratulate him as a club, taking up the top office in the city. But he's got different, very good plans for the club. He definitely wants to grow the welfare of the players, also not only the players, but the staff, make that place the number one sport that every athlete or every sportsman wants to come to, not only for either in a football club, but all the sports disciplines, netball, volleyball, basketball, and athletics. So he's very invested in the game. He's a sportsman as himself. You've seen the videos that keep going around where he says he boxed someone and then he did all that stuff. Yes, he was a boxer and all this, and he's a sportsman. So he has sports at heart. He wants to, like I said, grow the welfare of the players, the staff, create that competitive spirit again in the team. And if you get those little small other things, and those are the things that make you a champion, it's just not the pitch. Things like, let me say, bettering someone's welfare. He's going to die for that club because he knows you've done something for them. So those small other things, create. There's already running circles for the club and that city hall. So if you try to better some of the finances in these circles, where players can even go and try to, and those are some of the plans that he has, and very many others. So I should say that the future is bright.
Away from KC Football Club, again, I want to pick your brain on the few transfers we have had within our local league here. We had that there's a mass exodus, I think, from Bull, where about 10 players. Where we had about 10 players being released, and I think the noticeable one was Mwere, who was crossed over to Vipers. I want to pick your brain on what you think about these players that were released and Mwere is moved to Vipers.
Like I said, I've seen it from the silly season. But I've also just read it online. I don't know if they have really announced him, but there are different reasons that's why players leave. I've seen it firsthand at the club, but I will just focus on the players you've asked about. There's some fantastic players that were in there. I saw Mwere, I saw
there's Wabona, there's Orich,
and some of these players have been beaten in the Uganda Premier League. Jerome Kiria was part of that Chan team, the provisional squad. Mwere was part of the final team. Orich has also been on the Cranes before. We're going there's a season that was, I think, the top scorer in the first round, and then made the move, I think, from
He was a top
Express
scorer, I think, from Express, then crossed to Ball.
to Bull, yeah, and very many others. But like I said, players for different reasons. Could be contract is done, and you say we're not renewing, or the contract is done and you fail in the negotiations. Club is saying we're offering 50 million, and then maybe you say I want 70, and then the club looks at its finances and says if we give him 70, are we going to be able to sign another player? They you could have maybe fallen off, and maybe your performance has not been very good, and when the club says we cannot retain you. Like I said, there are very many reasons. It could be that the new coach feels you cannot fit in their plans according to their style of play, and you're not going to be able to give him that. And you see, when you hire a coach and then he tells you the players I want, it would be hard for you who has hired the coach to say, but then these players have to stay, because you're telling him I want a trophy, but he's telling you these are the players that will get me there. So you're not going to try to make sure these other players stay. So different reasons lead to players leaving for very many other clubs. So I'm thinking maybe one of those could be the reason as to why they left. But I know they'll get teams. Bull is a very good team. If you left Bull, then you should be able to get some team locally, or even somewhere within the region. Maybe South Sudan, maybe Kenya, maybe Tanzania, maybe Rwanda, and you try to do better for yourself.
I would want you to take off your cap as the spokesperson of KCF Football Club, and you give me your honest opinion on what we have always seen season in and season out, with Vipers always firing their head coach at the end of, I can literally say at the end of every season. But this is a man who went unbeaten, at least on the field of play, the entire season, and then we saw Minat being released at the end of the season. What is your honest opinion about Vipers keeping on? I know I'm putting you in trouble on this, but I just want your honest opinion. Not as a KCA spokesperson, but as a person who has followed the sport in this country.
Wow, like I said, you say you're not putting me, but you're putting me in a very tight spot. Like I said, I'm between a rock and a very hard place. But they've got their own ambitions as a club. I looked at some of the statistics for that guy just left, and he was a friend. We met actually one of the days. I think he said I'd go to play them away, and then we met in the dressing room. Then we exchanged pleasantries, and he's a good man according to the chat we had. But the club has got different ambitions. Probably there's why they want to be, and they feel or the current coach or the coach they had is not able to take them to that level. So they've got to be calls made at the end of the season. I've seen coaches win the league and they've been fired. Tusho had just won the Champions League, was fired. Maresca had just won the Club World Cup with Chelsea, and they left, I think, some few games in the league. Slot won the league with Liverpool in the first year, and this season I think finished 5th. He's out because of very many reasons. Like I said, different teams have different ambitions. There could be a team that finishes 13th, and that increases the contract of the coach. There's a team that will win the title and says, no, we might have won, but you're not probably good enough. So according to their ambitions, I'm sure that's why some different calls have got to be made. But if you look at his CV, he won where he was, I think in Liberia, then he comes here, he wins. So I'm thinking he'll probably if he's got a good CV, he'll get a club somewhere.
I honestly think it's more about his performance on the continent more than it is here. But moving on from that, Moses, as we said in the beginning, on the 11th of this month, the national budget was at least formally read, and it was an 83.4 trillion budget. But the sports sector, I think, got about 460 billion. And of course, most of that is going to go into the preparation of the Pamoja AFCON that we're going to be co-hosting alongside Kenya and Tanzania. But part of that, of course, FIFA will always remain with its ring-fenced 17 billion. But on top of that, I think they're also going to get about 30.2 billion because of the tournament that we have next year. And part of that is mainly to prepare the national team in terms of naturalization and also market this league.
Also supplement. You look at the budgets for these clubs. Budgets for these clubs are crazy. Just one game for KCCFC to go to Yombe is close to about 20 million. In terms of the fuel, in terms of the allowances for those players, in terms of the accommodation, Just one outing that the game is on Saturday, and then you leave Kampala on Thursday, and then you train Friday there, and then you sleep there, and then you play Saturday, and then you're back feeding and all that. About 20 million goes, just 20 million, 3 days.
I mean, for me here in the regional league, I was spending close to 3 million to play a team in Ntinda. So I can only imagine.
Within, yeah. So 20 million. So, like I said, it does not cover all the costs, and I don't want anybody out there to think it covers all the costs. I don't even think there's a team that only spends 300 million in the Uganda Premier League. I don't think it's there, unless with the troubles that you have got to make with all these teams that are even coming in this coming season. Chigezi from Chigezi region,
you have Chigezi from Kabale.
You have Tugasas from somewhere in I think
Mitiana,
Uganda region.
Yeah, then you have Paida. Is it no Black Power from Lira,
and then Kataka from Bali.
From Bali, yeah.
So you get all those troubles. The team has got to sleep there, stay, allowances, miscellaneous, and all these kind of things, and plus also the feeding. So it's a supplement. I'll not, but it does not cover all. You see, if you've not been having something, and then let me say you've not been having sugar, and then someone gives you just one teaspoon, and say you cannot say Ikamaze. You're coming from not having, but when they give you one, you would have hoped maybe 3 to make the sugar taste a little bit, sorry, the tea taste a little bit nice. But you see, with the one, you're like, oh, it's okay. Maybe in the second year, it could get to double. But it's very good in terms of helping the players, the teams, prepare ahead of the continental showpiece, that is the AFCON. I don't know why teams should be getting the same, because I think their core, for me, mine would be on the core of the national team. To be honest, I don't think the national team is going to pick a player from let me say a club that is likely to finish 15th, 16th, or 17th. Most of the core players are from the first 3-4 teams, and also even the local based players are not the core of that team. About 2 or 3 others, most of them are, So I'm thinking that should the percentages should differ a little bit, because we know KCCA Vipers and lately Chitara maybe and Nick.
We train a Nick in there.
URA maybe 1 or 2 years sometimes.
There are also some outliers from maybe
Bull
yes. And the likes of UPPC maybe.
Yes, those are the teams that, even if it's just a local cranes, or the ones that the local base, the Chan, or the ones that play some friendlies, those are the major players that normally feed the national team. It is so rare that I don't know the last time I've had maybe the Cranes pick a player, let me say, from Lugazi or all these other clubs or something. So they should get part of the money, but I don't think it should be the same. Most of the money, I saw KCC and Vipers had about 6-7 players on the Chan team, and the others Bull had about 3 or 4. Villa had maybe 2 or 3. But the clubs that didn't have any, so.
Maybe,
honestly,
one would argue that would make sense this time round, since they are preparing players for the AFCON. But moving forward, do you think the government should continue supporting these teams, or should the federation focus more on empowering maybe the UPL to look for sponsors to support these teams, and also maybe do a little bit more, should I call it, civic education among its clubs? Because even if a club was given 1 billion shilling from the government every season, like I think we have seen it in some leagues, like I think SAFA gives money to its clubs, I think every quarter, not even just as a block sum in the season. But some of these clubs are going to get this money. A club like Express, we don't even know who the CEO is. We don't know who the chairman is.
Finance money.
So, like, how are they going to manage these funds?
No, you see, when one thing I know with the little knowledge I have about government funds, you don't have government funds just like that. Money that is coming from the government has got to have proper accountability. So the money before even the money comes in, it's now the federation's role and the UPL and this we do during the club licensing. I don't know why clubs should submit people with all these fancy titles, but on ground it's not happening. If you submitted, because if you say clubs have passed the club licensing, that means you've presented that you have a CEO, that you have the finance manager, that you have a media person.
But Moses, we have time and again seen these things. Clubs are being passed, that have passed the club licensing. But on ground, when it comes to the actual execution, we still have these issues. I mean, look at what happened to a club like Bulimba last season.
No, then create avenues whereby you don't even wait for the
Is it a matter of setting laws or the enforcement?
The laws are actually there. The laws are actually there. So if you play or fool around that we've got all these people, and then on ground it's not there, because then you miss out on the money probably if the money is being given to the clubs at once or maybe quarterly. If you don't account properly, okay, you may not account, but you have to go to show that the money has maybe done A, B, C, and D. If you're getting this help, and then we're hearing things that the club has not been able to travel for a game, the club has not been able to pay players, why? After you've been able to get already 300M, like I said, it won't cover everything, but at least let's not hear things that the clubs have areas of 5 months. That shows that literally for you use probably the money for some other things. So try to put, I'm sure the rules are already there, to make them a little bit strict. Just try to turn that nut a little bit, tighter on some of these clubs. Do things like, if you fail to comply and in terms of maybe accounting for this money, or maybe showing that the money actually helped and all these kind of things, there will be repercussions at the end of it all. So even the accounting officers who probably get reports to FUFA and the Uganda Premier League know that at the end of the day, their names are at stake, because it's one thing when you work for the club, but you will leave at one day. So do you want your name tainted around that you had probably 300 million wired to the club account and you used it for something else? I don't think that's what you'd be looking for. So just make the rules a little bit tight. They're already there. And like I said, let's not just stop at the money coming from the government. Let's have money. Like I said, the civic education will help. Let FUFA push FUFA, the Uganda Premier League. Let them push clubs to even seek for more sponsorship. Let clubs hire the people that will be able. Yes, hire a proper marketing manager, hire a proper brands person that will be able to go out there and look for sponsorships and also, like I said, the money on a supplement. If you're only looking at the 300 million, then you're in the wrong place. On top of the other avenues that you'll have from gate collection, from player sales, from merchandise sales, from your sponsors, from different other avenues that you do have, the supplementary 300 million per club is just a supplementary. Now add on to that, if I've had 3 sponsors this season and I go out there and get just 2 more, and that will definitely make my funds better, that I can tell the players that I've increased the match bonus, so that maybe they can even push more on the pitch. So those are the kind of things. But also the civic education is very important, especially on when you're going to give people government money, because this is taxpayers' money.
Yeah, of course.
It's coming from government, so it's taxpayers' money. So that civic education is important for people to know that this money will need proper accountability. Anyone that tries to misuse the money, then the repercussions.
Yeah, you slightly touched the issue of club licensing. We may not really delve into the details, but we have seen a couple of new changes that have come into the club licensing. I would want to know from your perspective as a club in KCCA, we are seeing that now saying clubs should actually now own their own female teams, not just partnering with teams. We are seeing them saying that every club should have an academy. That may be possible maybe for the kind of club that KCCA is, but if you were to paint a picture for a club like Chigezi Homeboys, per se, you're telling them they have to do all these things. They have to get a technical director. This will have to be paid. Do you think that FUFA is doing a favor to these clubs? I mean, why introduce? Because we know for a fact that even clubs that may seem like they're doing fine for our league, KCCA is one of them, Vipers, even maybe Villa, but there are struggles. There are struggles. I mean, how as you've said, you spend about 20+ million to own a game, let's say, up country. And now you want this club to also run a female team, you want them to run an academy. Top of that, you want them to have a technical director. I'm not saying that these are bad. That's good for the growth of our game. But I mean, how has the federation supported clubs to see that these things actually actualized? Like, how realistic are these requirements when it comes to club life?
I don't even want to just imagine how it is going to be for some of the clubs, and not only some of the clubs, for all of us. I'll give an example. Let me just actually start with cases here. You run a senior team that has 30 licensed players, but we don't only have 30 players. We might license 30, but we have maybe 40 players. That the other 10 could be on the fringes, some are recovering from injuries and all that. and all of them you're paying them. Different contracts have different demands. Some you could be paying and even doing other things for them. You have a junior team and that plays in the FOFA Juniors League that you take care of fully. And because in the past I think there was some support that would come in from the federation. Right now it no longer happens. But you have that you have the junior team, you have the academy now for us. This academy, I would say it's a little bit self-sustaining because the plan is if you to join the academy you've got to pay the ones from 3 to about 17. And we have some of them actually being feeding what we call our junior team, the junior team that plays. Then now you've got a women's team, which is now a requirement for you to get process club licensing. You have staff, a very big staff count for us, different people, marketing, administration, business development, communications and all this.
You have a facility to maintain.
You have a facility to maintain. I mean, and all these things. So you look at it and you're like, wow, okay, all these demands are coming in and I've got to fulfill in case I'm going to get the license for the season. But then how am I going to be able to survive? Because you see that 300 million is coming into the clubs to help the clubs prepare players ahead of AFCON. Something is going to be tagged to the senior men's team. Where are the funds for the women's team? That means you've got to go out and solicit for more sponsors. Getting a sponsor is not very easy. You don't just wake up and say, I've seen sponsorships at the club, I'll not mention who, that the club has chased for like 7 years and just secured them recently, some about 2-3 years ago. But from like 2019, knocking on doors and then knocking on doors and then finally, so like it's not a thing you're going to do in a week and then you close. So with the inclusion of the female teams being a must, and they don't want things like I've got an attachment, though we have had an attachment recently, a partnership. It has to be you feed them, you pay their salaries, if they're in school, probably even take them to school and all these other kind of things. You transport them for games, you have to get a jersey for them and all these kind of things. So it's honestly tough. You get to think about it and at the end of it all, you're like, I need to get the license to compete. But to be honest, it's
I don't understand why FOFA doesn't even let these women's games be played concurrently with the men's games. I mean, if KCCA is playing Vipers at 8 p.m., then have the women's game at 4 or 5. Let them also tap into that resource. But you're putting games on a Sunday morning. Who's going to watch those games? And then you expect these teams to sustain these people. Anyways, as we wrap this up, at the beginning of last season, we all know what happened, the controversial new format that ended up being scrapped and us reverting back to the old format. Speculation has it that next season we're going to have 18 teams in the league. Now, as a person who has run football a bit in the regional league, we were the ones who suffered that new format in the regional league, and we had 18 teams playing a round robin. The first round robin, play 17 games, and we were seeded in 2 groups of 6-6. So do you think that the federation could be tending back to bring back this new format with the introduction of an extra 2 teams to the new league?
Well, I don't know, but all I know is right now we're going to have 18 teams. There has not been any communication that has come in showing that is the format we're going to play this season.
I mean, they said that they're going to first go and try it in a lower division, then maybe they'll reintroduce it.
We wait to hear anything, but all I'm saying is there's not been any communication about any change of the format and what. From the time that communication, I think, was made by the president last season, that they have suspended it for the senior league or the main league for the country and pushed now to the regional league. That has been it since. I think some of the reforms that have been coming in are maybe for the women's teams being introduced and all that. So for now, I don't really think it's going to be this season. And if it's to be, then I would have thought that with now, this is June, when getting towards the end of June.
There's the 19th.
And so then July, most of the teams will, or even late June, next week, some of the teams that are playing in the CAF Champions League or CAF Confederations Cup could start their pre-season earlier now. So you don't want teams to report for pre-season and then they are getting to hear that now things are going to be a little bit different. Yeah, and I'm thinking if there's going to be any changes, they should have communicated them early. So I know that they should have picked lessons from how probably it was welcomed and and probably everything that went on at the time. And I'm sure the next time probably something is going to be reintroduced. They will have to re-engage different stakeholders. And when I talk about stakeholders, not only the clubs but fans, who are very important stakeholders,
sponsors, yeah, the broadcast people,
the broadcast, and also everybody has got to be in line and aligned. And you don't want to leave anybody out of this. So if it's going to be done, I don't think it's this season. Maybe it's going to come, but like I said, it will have to be systematically, introduced. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That was our second episode of the Gantry UG. My brother, Moses, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. I hope to see you sometime again, probably later on as the World Cup proceeds. And maybe later on, I plan to have an episode, I think, at in Lugogo.
Is that the new... I've already been able to visit the new primary stand. It looks very amazing.
You should invite us and give us a stadium tour.
We'll definitely invite you.
Please pass on my own regards to Madam Anisha. Yeah. Thank you so much for honoring our invite.
Thank you too for having me at the Gantry UG, and it's a pleasure.
So do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. We shall see you in the next one.